Going to Aunt Audrey's house, Tarrant City.
All right. That little thing right there. The guy. Hello? Hello?
Well, here it be.
Right. He's making a picture.
Oh, how wonderful. This shop looks so like my soul. Oh, you certainly have grown since I've seen you. And you, too.
It's all of a big boy, isn't it?
To reaching my nephew.
All right. It's your nephew, huh?
Oh, yeah, and my brother and my
Hey!
other
Oh, good to see you.
Yeah, I said when you came in with these cameras, it reminds me of Michael coming in with his.
I see he does the same thing,
Yeah,
huh?
he sure does. He's a good one to take, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, you can't turn him off. The only thing is when he starts talking, the last time I got him, I got 6 hours non-stop. He just talked for 6 hours.
Oh, a top of it. I thought you were taking pictures.
Well, it's pictures and talk. You know, it's like on the TV.
Yeah. Oh, you conducted a talk show.
Right. Right. Oh, let me see if I can set this thing up and we'll get him out. You been doing okay?
Oh, yes, I sure have. And you people?
Oh, fine, fine. We've been kind of wishing you'd come to Hatchet Creek. It's been mighty pretty, you know.
Yeah. I tell you, it's been a very dry spring.
It has.
Has everything come through all right with the dryness?
I had a little catfish pond built on the Uncle Frank place.
Yeah.
Right, you know, behind the Uncle Frank house, there's a couple of little swag, you know, little places.
Yeah.
And I had a catfish pond built, and it's just about dried up.
Oh,
So
my goodness.
that's kind of
Well, I heard all kind of problems come about with all this. You know, they said it was the hottest, it was the driest March we ever had. And then on the whole, they said it was the driest April we ever had in our history.
Good grief. Well, it looks like
Oh,
we're...
winter?
Yeah, and all since they kept the records, you know. Would you reckon, would you be more...
Yeah, why don't you come sit over? Y'all
Yeah.
get a
How
little...
do you think? What? I mean, you mean the children, y'all gonna leave me?
We'll get you in that light there.
Are they fixing to go somewhere, did you?
No.
These children?
Yeah. You were saying, were they
I
going
don't
to...
believe so. They're grown up, so I can't.
Oh, I see.
That's especially grown since the last year.
Well, she certainly has.
Lee's holding his own.
Yeah, they both are now.
Lee's lost weight, hasn't
Yeah, I believe he has, since I've seen
he?
him.
He's not as,
And actually,
sometimes, huh?
Round.
Yeah, he's not as round.
actually gained just a little, you know, not too much. But the
She's
last
picked
time,
up, right.
Yeah, that's right. She needed to gain
Right.
a little weight the
Right.
last time I saw her. But now she's just the right size.
Yes, right.
And like I said, I guess one reason it looks like Lee has lost some weight. I think he's quite a bit taller than he was before, you know,
yeah.
going up that way. And that makes him up here not quite. Well, how's school coming along with you? Let's see, now what grade are you in now?
Oh, Lord, you are.
And what grade are you, Ken? The 10th.
10th grade.
Is that's junior high school, isn't it?
Yeah, it
You
starts senior
senior,
high.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's the first year of senior high.
Oh, it is. You don't mean you're a freshman in high school.
Yes, ma'am.
No. Well, now, don't they have 5 years after aren't there 5 years now in high school?
Well, they different schools have it different. You know, some of them they've jumped the 6th grade up into junior high, and then some of them it's just that they're all but.
Well, I know now, like with my children, both of them, once they got to high school, it was just 4 years. But it seems like an extra year was added since you had, when Lee and I went to school. I guess it's at the junior high school.
I guess so.
They put it in, but it seemed that there was...
Let's see, you went to the 6th grade and 7th, 8th, and 9th. Wasn't that junior high school?
Yes.
And 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th was the senior high school. But on the other hand, it's like Sister said, you had a freshman, a sophomore, and a junior, and a senior.
And they still have that.
And so I guess that would be the 10th, let's see, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Yeah.
I guess in the 9th grade you was a freshman. In the 10th grade you were a sophomore. In the 11th grade you were a junior. And in 12th you was a senior.
You know, the 6th grade, she said she was in the 6th. That
You mind
was
if I
one
let a
of the
little
most-
light right in here?
Yeah,
No.
just bring the shade to it. It was one of the most pleasant years, you know, in school that I had. Miss Etta Steve was my teacher.
Sure, I have Miss Etta.
And she always left such an impression on me.
I got it. We were supposed to go to Horseshoe Bend, and our class didn't make it for some reason.
No, ours didn't either, but I wasn't disappointed. I never did really, you know, I never did really take her seriously, but it didn't keep me from Melville. I don't think she ever intended to take a class.
She just promised them that they...
And she talked about it, and she made us familiar with the place, but she didn't.
That was salt of the earth.
And that was the most wonderful feeling
The
to feel.
salt of the earth.
One year in school, I knew I was a part of the salt of the earth. And we were a good group.
And another thing, we took ancient history. And that ancient history, that was Greece and Rome, and through the Renaissance and the plague and those religious wars in England and ancient history. Well, I don't know whether we even got to England. I think it was just more the Greek and the Roman. I don't know whether we went beyond that. Did we go to the Euphrates River civilization, the old Persian civilization? I'm not sure.
Well, we were pretty much in that, you know, that was the year in our readers that we read about Achilles and Hector and all of them. I just thought those stories were so...
Can I move your chair over just a little bit?
Yeah.
I want to get you in that light and get you, so I can get both of you
Well,
two in
now
this
I
picture.
thought her a dimness. I'm better in a dimness.
No. Oh, now, I wish Albert Lee would.
Well,
Could have come.
yeah, I guess he's busy at the store
He
this
is.
afternoon. I just wondered, you know, I couldn't remember for sure whether maybe Jane mentioned him or not. I didn't think she did, though.
I didn't want to go to the store, but I mean, I thought we'd just see him tomorrow or something.
He's usually down there at that store. They are hectic, you know. They are really snowed under, especially this time of year. Everybody, you know, that's all this dry weather, and they got plenty of time to get the ground broke up.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
guess they're afraid to plant, though, afraid it won't come up.
well, now that is just it. You know, the other night, the other afternoon on Channel 13 on this local news. Now, I didn't listen to it, but I'd heard they'd given us a little bit, you know, what was going on. There was a farmer near Gadsden in that county. He gave a little talk about him. He was getting up in age, and all his years he'd never seen about crops, you know, with the ground so dry. And he showed a picture how dry the land was.
When now, you taught at Millerville. Do you remember what year you taught?
No, I can't really be sure. Now, I graduated from high school in 1926. I think it was 28 when I taught there, because the next year I went to Jacksonville, And then I think it was in 28 that I taught there.
We have a lady that comes, what's that lady that substitutes about Aunt Audrey's age? Ms. Mitchell, and don't know who she was before she got married. But I think she taught there sometime around, her name is Ruth. But I don't know what she was before she became a Mitchell. And I've been trying to get y'all placed, where she said, I just don't remember. She's like you. She said, that's just a long time ago to be remembered.
Yeah, that's right. Just a lot of water's run out of the bridge.
Yeah.
Well,
Did you taught 1 year there?
Yeah. Do you ever see Sarah Pearl Harkins
No.
out there now? I say Harkins. She married I forget who it was. She ran the post office there.
Right. Now she's retired, and there's another lady there now.
Yeah. Well, I think I read in the paper that her husband was in the hospital. I didn't read about him this week, but I think the week before that he was one of those in the hospital. He's getting up in age. Poor old Sarah Pearl's sort of getting up in age herself. Of course, she's middle age.
Yeah.
You see, we were in the same grade of school, so she couldn't be over middle age.
I see. Well, I'm fixing to be middle age. Are you middle age when you're 40?
Well, I think it's the 70s, surely, when you're middle age.
Okay.
That's what I told Diane. She and Michael both, each one. I know Michael. I could tell it sort of worried him that 40th birthday. And then with Diane, I think it got her even worse than it did Michael. There's just something about, crossing that.
Right.
Do you know the birthday, though, that impressed me more than my 40th or any of these others, as I've gotten older? The birthday that impressed me most was my 65th. And you know why that was?
No.
It was the year that Mother passed away when she was 65, don't you see? So when I was 65...
Mama wasn't she 67?
No, she was 65. She died in 47, you see.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, she died in 47, but she was just 65 years old. But now she would, in April, she would have been 66.
You mean to tell me that I am 11 years older than, let's see, 65? Oh, no, 65. 6 years older than
His mother,
Mama
that's
when
the
she
deal.
died.
Now, that was just the way I've looked at it all these years. I thought my mother had experienced the world 65 years. And from now on, this is time that Mother didn't have, you see.
How old was Daddy when he died?
He was about 92, I think.
92.
I think.
Do you remember what month and year, what month and day he died? What year?
Well, it was in January of, I have it down, but I don't know.
Well, Mama died in 1947, did she?
Yes, she in 1947.
I guess that's the reason I
And
thought.
Daddy was 78 years old when she died. Same age I am now, you see. He was 7 years older than her.
And he died in January?
Yeah, in January of, it was the year after Diane and Bill married. I know, they were in school. And I can't, let me see. Well, I had it all down. I depend too much on just jotting things down and not making my mind remember all these things. But some things, it just seems it was not when Mother passed away. That was our first, when we lost this, like when your mother, you see. It's something it's just imprinted on your mind forever. It looks like just what happened during the time. And that's the way it was with Mother. And with Michael, I think it's the same way about about losing Mother. It made such an impression on him, you see, at the time.
He was how old? 4 or 5 something?
No, he was older than, and see, now he was, he
How
was
old is
born
he?
in 38, you see,
Oh.
and Mother passed away in 47, so he would have been 9 years old, wouldn't he, that way?
Well, he's 9 years older than I am. I didn't know he was that much older than I am.
Yeah, and then you were 1 year younger than Diane. But she got to start school a year, it was 2 years, she got to start 2 years before you did, wasn't it? Because her birthday was, she just got it, you see. Her birthday.
And I just missed it.
Yeah, you just missed it. So, well, I always heard it was better on boys if they didn't start to school so early. You know, Willie Eva Pruitt, all those years, she taught school there at Ashland. And I know the last time we talked, she said, you know, it would be better if all little boys started school a year younger than little girls. She said, you know, little girls.
You mean older?
A year.
Should they be older?
No, the boys be a year younger. If the
Boy
girl,
be 5 and the girl 6?
no, the boy'd be 7.
That's what I say. Well, that'd be older.
The boy, you see, should be a year older when he starts
That's
school
right,
than
yeah.
a girl.
I agree with you.
It's all right for a girl to start at 6, but he should start at 7.
Yeah.
Because it seems that boys just, that girls just mature a little quicker.
Sure, a
usually.
girl in the 7th grade will be wanting to date a boy in the 8th or 9th, and a boy in the 10th grade, why, he'd just soon date some little girl in the, if he's in 10th grade, he'd date one in the 8th, and think he's doing all right.
Yeah.
No, they had me sitting over there in Hatchet Creek the last time I came up. Maybe it wasn't the last time. But one time, and I sat there for 4 hours, and Eddie,
5.5 hours.
5.5 hours. He took me to the present time, and he never did get me any further back than, as I recall, or we were talking about it coming up here, he never did even get me where I was going to college. So I really must have dwelt on the present, and yet I'm sort of a history buff.
I was trying to get him back on the horse and buggy days and Hatchet Creek days, and I couldn't get him to talk about it.
I couldn't remember.
He was just,
yeah,
he was just 1 or 2 years old at it, Hatchet Creek.
Do you remember in all our buggy? You were very
I remember our buggy very well because we had this barn behind our house, and it had once been a house because inside the barn was wallpaper, but it's not the kind of wallpaper that one would think of. It was made out of newspapers.
Yeah.
It was an old house, and so we had a shed east of on the east side of the barn, and on the south side we let me see, on the south side was the buggy, and on the north side toward Miss Lucas' house was the wagon. We had a Studebaker wagon, and we had a nice buggy. We had a lap robe, and this lap robe had the head of a dog, and you could find its buttons, its eyes. And at one time we had a oilcloth thing that went in front of the buggy where the lines would come through, and where we could sit up there when it was raining and not get too wet.
Oh, you just the smell.
Right. But I do not know how Daddy could look. He certainly couldn't look through that little hole that was just about so long and about that wide where the lines came through. Now, the sister and I sat in the back of the buggy. We pulled that little old thing up, and it wasn't any wider than that. We were both sitting there, and we was always riding backwards. And
No, it was in the foot of the buggy.
well,
Maybe
I
it's
remember toward the last, before when we got talking about buying an automobile, a T-model automobile in 1920, or buy a Surrey. Well, I was leaning toward the automobile, and but we had borrowed a Surrey.
Yeah.
And made several trips where they're two-seated affair. But now, you mean to tell me that you and I didn't always sit at the back of the buggy and
No.
hold our feet out?
Well, I tell you, just occasionally, that back part, it was more just to, sort of like the back of a car to put things in, but you could stay back there, but it's very little we ever did. Mother ever let us.
Where did we sit?
Well, you usually, when we had the buggy, you sat either in Mother's lap or between Mother and Daddy.
Well, but Albert Lee, I always remember
but
him
it
sitting
was-
up there in the buggy.
It was very little Albert Lee ever rode in the buggy. See, we got the car just right straight. And on our trips, special trips to Hatchet Creek, if you remember, Dr. Shaddix would loan his car and his chauffeur to us. And we would arrive in style.
Wait, now that is something that I don't no more recall.
Mhm.
You mean to tell me Dr. Shaddix was down at Hatchet Creek, and if we made a trip from Ashland to Hatchet Creek, that he would send his automobile and a chauffeur?
No, what I'm talking now, there are two times that I'll mention. Now, when we were at Hatchet Creek, I remember one day, we wanted to go to Ashland. Daddy really didn't need to leave the crop. Right?
Oh, before we
And
moved.
You
up
you
there.
were a baby, but we were on the way. We passed Dr. Shaddix's house, and we stopped to talk to him. Daddy says, I really shouldn't get away. He was going to leave us and come back. He said, well, I will. He said he'd just let his man drive us to Ashland right quick. But then later on, when we lived in Ashland, we wanted to go to an all-day singing at Hatchet Creek. And that was, I guess Albert Lee was a walking baby, Newport years older. And so Daddy was trying to borrow a Surrey for us that day. And he talked to Dr. Shaddix. He wanted to know if he had any idea who he could borrow a Surrey for. He says, why, you don't need to do that. I'll send you down there in my car.
Well,
And he, with his chauffeur.
was the chauffeur white or black?
Black.
Well, I'll say probably lived in the glade.
Probably so. But, doctors usually had a chauffeur.
Well, who brought me in the world? Shaddix? Or
No, it was Dr. Slaughter.
Slaughter. What was Slaughter's first name?
Frank, I believe it was.
Frank Slaughter?
I
What
may
is
be
Dr.
wrong.
Shaddix's first name?
Let's see, just on the spur of the moment, I know it as well as it.
You remember Doc Shaddix, don't you? The young doctor.
Oh, yeah, he was junior.
That I
really.
met in Washington
Yeah,
at
Doc.
the time.
He was the baby,
Okay.
He was there. He was the same age of you, only just a month or two old.
Well, if we bought our T-model in 1920 and Albert Lee was born in 1918, he was only 2 years old.
Yeah, it was very little riding.
Well, I do remember some ridings in the back of the buggy.
Yes, I'll tell you what you remember. We borrowed, it wasn't exactly a Surrey. It was just a very nice, Mother said that was what we ought to get. If we got us, we'd outgrown a buggy, but with this, it had, the buggy seat in front, and then at the back, it was a little contraption for us to sit. It wasn't like a big Surrey,
Didn't have a top over?
Yes, I think it had the top on.
The little top on the back?
I think I guess it had on the back too, but it wasn't like a regular Surrey. And they debated quite a bit whether to get a kind of a Surrey, you know, that kind of Surrey. But they were leaning toward a car very much.
Who was the one that pushed for the car the most?
Well, I think one pushed just about as much as the other.
What was y'all's ideas about it? What was your idea?
Oh, we were definitely pulling for the car. At first, we thought it was the most wonderful thing to get a Surrey. You know, to get that, we were thrilled over that. And then, suddenly, Mother and Daddy began talking more. You could tell they were really in earnest about talking about, you know, getting a car. And I'll tell you, what changed them on that, suddenly they had the money to buy a car, you see, because it sold the graphite. Uncle Lee had sold the graphite.
Uncle Lee had invested part of the Black estate in graphite, and we came into some graphite money.
No, now, the way it was, you know, Grandpa Black had bought the land for taxes, and it was down, you know, on the other side of Ashland. He had bought it for taxes. And then during World War I, graphite was in great demand. And so they discovered graphite, right at the end of the war, they discovered graphite on our land. And so they sold it to where, anyway, Mother's part would be enough, you know, that they could
Swing a car?
yeah, you know, pay cash for it and have a little left over. I believe that car, at the time, later on they got much cheaper, these Ford cars. But it was right after the war. I believe that car was $700.
$750 in 1920. Daddy paid cash for it, learned to drive it, already had a garage built for it, and learned to drive it that afternoon, paid for it that afternoon, and in a couple of years, well, you could buy an automobile for a little less than $400, and Daddy lamented that fact so often that he bought it right when the price was so high.
Did he ever have any mishaps or anything with the car?
Well, the first day, those cars was really built. The fenders were really heavy. If you'd have done what he did, why, you would just smashed up the car. Now, we didn't have people back in those days that could work on fenders and parts of the car and put it back together. As a matter of true fact, we all got out of the car, and he drove it inside the car. And he may have said whoa, and he may have not said whoa.
Now, wait a minute. Now, what was he doing? Where was he putting it?
He was putting the automobile in the garage.
Uh-huh.
And he ran back into the garage, and he knocked a plank a little bit loose, and on the right-hand fender that stood up, it didn't curve like that, while there was always a little crunch in that fender, and it never occurred to us to ever go anywhere to try to get that fender straightened out. And it was so, the material was so durable that you couldn't have taken a hammer or a mallet or anything such as that and straightened it up. I believe I'm right on that.
And then what did he say? Now, all he'd ever done, like everybody, is driven a horse.
Yeah.
But
he did. I remember, I was even thinking we were still in the car at first when it might have been we started in and thought better of it and got out. But anyway, as he started in, he was going a little faster than he meant to. He says, "Whoa, whoa," and the Lord and mercy, Edward, no. It's not the horse.
I like that.
Well, now, Joe Morris Allen's daddy, Timothy Allen, who's Senator Jim Allen's uncle, he was going around a curve at our little cotton house, at our little farm, right outside of Ashland, and that he was going. Timothy was driving so fast that his car sort of got out of control, and he was saying gee and ha to him. And just coming on up here, Mary Jane was talking about her granddad, they call him Papa, up there in Monroe County. And he bought some little old red sports car, and he had been a janitor there at Old Fort Claiborne, and his wife ran the hotel there, and Mary Jane worked there when she was about her age, waiting on the table, and the guys would say, "What pretty eyes you have, little girl." And she'd go in and look at her grandmother's mirror, and she thought her eyes were so beautiful.
Oh.
And then she would get home and look in her mother's mirror, and her mirror was not as good a mirror as Grandma's mirror, and her eyes didn't seem quite as pretty to her as she thought. But Papa Simmons, he just stopped driving that car altogether, and his daughters, he had a bunch of daughters, and they started driving the car. At halftime, they need to fix a puncture and this and that, and I heard one of Mary Jane's mama's sisters talking about that they drove that car whenever Papa Simmons would let them drive it, and from then on, he never did drive it anymore because he said, "Woo, woo, woo."
Well, Uncle Drew had the same experience, surprisingly enough.
Yeah?
Yeah, he would say, "Whoa," but he stopped driving, He never did drive.
Uncle Drew?
That's right.
Well, Uncle Drew drove for years. Uncle Albert never did drive.
Yeah, but I don't think Uncle Drew did.
Every Thursday afternoon, Uncle Drew would drive his little T-model coupe from Goodwater up to Hatchet Creek. And he talked about it make 30 miles an hour.
And he drove it into town?
Yes, sir. Hugh McClung went along with him, but Uncle Drew drove. It was Uncle Marvin never drove. Uncle Albert never drove. Now, Uncle Albert drove a little bit. He had a Hudson automobile, and that was when they were running that store in Ashland, and Eugene was more or less managing the store, but Uncle Albert always splurged, you might say, and he had this Hudson automobile, and the only cars in Ashland were Ford and Chevrolet. He parked that Hudson automobile in front of our yard, and all the time that he was visiting with Mama and them, why, I was out there. It had one of these gear shifts that stuck up, and I got shifting that gear without putting my foot on the clutch, and I realized something had happened to the car. So like you're messing around with my Crosby automobile when you were very young, you realized that something had happened very bad. And I went out and tried to drive the Crosby, and I had some difficulty making it go forward on account of your activities. Thus it was, I never explained to Uncle Albert, I never explained to anybody, but they had to have some help to get that Hudson automobile running it. I never did explain
They didn't know what happened.
I didn't feel called on to explain that I had been trying to shift those gears, but I realized something terrible had happened to it.
But, it would make such an impression on us when we decided to get the car, because Daddy goes and he puts the order in. He goes to town, and they send the order into Henry Ford, in Detroit, for our car. And it was months later, see, they had to make it and send it. And after Daddy put the order in, he began building the garage for the car when it got there. And it was, I don't know just how long, 2 or 3 months, at least, By the time it came, the garage was built and waiting. They had made it. We knew what was going on. Our car was being made.
Where did it come to? I mean, where did you pick it up? Do you remember?
Uptown. It was up on the square. A man called us on the phone, and he says that when Miss Rozelle, your car, I just wanted to let you know your car has come. And I'll come by the house with it. And he said that Daddy had already told him, he wanted him to teach him to drive, and he says that I will teach you to drive this afternoon. So we all went with him. Daddy was learning to drive. And that man, it seemed that most certainly, nobody thought about it. We were not uneasy that it should take Daddy longer than that afternoon to learn how to drive. We were all there, and he didn't have a bit of trouble till he got trying to get that car in the garage, That was the first trouble.
Was that the first day?
Your first day. That was all the first day,
Do you remember who he bought it from? Was there a Ford dealer in Clay County, or?
I can't.
I imagine Wilbur Nolan. I would imagine Wilbur Nolan and Jack Glenn were in the mule business. They sold mules and horses that get fall of the year why these poor people, farmers, would work their mules, and they were sort of skinny, and then they'd bring in these fine-looking mules from Tennessee and Kentucky, and always you trade your old mules that had a rough time working during the year for 2 of these little slick ones. And in many instances, the old mules, they were broke in. You'd have to break in these new ones. They looked good, but it would have paid a lot of farmer not to pay that boot and just kept what he had.
Now those kids are back there. Look, they are bookworms, so they'll look at your books.
Yeah, they have plenty of books to look at. They sure do. I just enjoy my reading more and more as the years go on, it seems.
Well, what are you reading mostly right now?
Well, I read such a variety. I'm usually reading at least 3 books all at one time. I like to read nature books. Now, Edward Wade Teal, he's a man, I like his books. He writes a book for each season of the year, He and his wife, Nellie, they took a trip for each season of the year. And they, going through autumn. Now I'm reading his traveling through spring.
Well, now that's
in a way, I have all 4 of the books, but in a way, this book on spring is, to me, it's just the most thrilling of all, because they went through the Smokies.
Oh yeah.
And I love the Smokies, and he told all about their adventures in the Smokies. But I'm reading a lot of biography now. For one thing, I've been reading biography of Louisa Alcott. She wrote Little Women, Little Men, and all those.
There's a book that if you ever get a chance to read it, I think that was Run with the Horseman, and it's about the time y'all were growing up, and it's about the old, is a superintendent of education in a little county about like Clay County, and it's just, y'all would really like, Charlie Tolan's reading it right now.
Do you know who wrote it?
I can't think. I'll try to, we got it. I read it at school, and Frank Tolan read it, and then he said he knew Charlie would like it, and I've been wanting Daddy to read it, but y'all would really. It's a good one.
Like some Clay County person might have.
It's a doctor in Georgia that wrote it, and it could have been, you know, in Clay County. But if you go to the library, if you ever get a chance, Run with a Horseman. It's a good one.
Well, do you know, I like to read, Sir Winston Churchill, his books. I like to read his books. But on the other hand, I like to read what you call children's books. Right now, I've started all over again on The Little House on the Prairie. Those books.
What books do you have on Winston Churchill?
Well, those books of the Second
All those
World
red
War
ones.
over there, The Gathering
To your right.
Storm and all
Right
those.
in here?
These.
Oh,
We
yeah.
got some.
Well, do you have any of the Triumph and Tragedy, Closing the Ring, and Grand Alliance? Do you have any of his early books?
I have two of his, let me see, the first one, two of his autobiography. No, it was his son that wrote it, so it'd be biography for his son.
Randolph.
Yeah, Randolph. It was the first one was from his birth until 1914.
Yeah.
And the second was for 1914 through the.
Well, our first book was a lot of letters that Churchill's daddy and mother was writing to him off in school, and he was writing back to them, and he was only 6, 7, and 8 years of age, and they all but had abandoned him, even though they were good to him and gave him money and all like that.
And he was in a fine school.
But they didn't expect too much of him. They never dreamed that he'd ever amount to anything. And they thought about making a lawyer out of him, but they didn't think that he had the capacity to be a lawyer or a preacher or a doctor. And then when it got to the Army, I forget what he was, in the artillery or the infantry, but one of the others, they didn't think he had the cerebrum oblongata to be, say, in the artillery, and they put him in the infantry or versifica.
Well, when he was a child, though, his father, the Army was the only thing he thought that he showed any aptitude for, because he went into his nursery one day, and he was on the floor playing with his blocks and his little toy soldiers. And when Cousin Ansel and Cousin Margie Thompson came, that just about broke things up. The week before, their little girl, it was about 4 years old, she had died. And so the preacher was right in the middle of preaching her funeral sermon, you know. And suddenly we heard somebody crying and taking on at the back of the church. And I heard somebody say, Lord, that Ansel and Margie's come. And I mean, they were really crying and taking on, you know, at the back. And that's when Mother went to them. And Daddy, too. You know, they were getting along pretty well till they heard Cousin Liz back there, you know.
That's Ansel Thompson.
Yeah, Ansel and Cousin Margie and everybody. And they were there, and they were all crying. And I know, I told Mother, what's these people back there? Who's that crying? And of course, all the folks were looking around. But anyway, after the funeral was over, when we went, but now on the way to that funeral, I'll never forget that. On the way to that funeral, you see, it was all the kinfolks, as I said, was there, but first they carried her, you see, in this buggy, and they had her casket, you know, on that back part of the buggy, as you were talking about us being in. Well, they had her little casket was tied on the back part of that buggy. And so then, right behind that, Mother and Daddy and I were in this buggy, you see, and we of buggies coming behind us, you know, the funeral procession. And I can remember as we were riding along, Mother was crying, and Daddy, you know, they were just both in a pretty bad way. And so I began looking, but I'd always wanted to ride, stand up. I'd seen children ride on that little back part of the buggy, you see. And it was there, at that time, my mother had never let me ride on the back part of the buggy. But Daisy Lee's casket was there on this back part of the buggy. And I said, now, Mama, don't cry. She's happy. She likes this. She's getting to ride where I always wanted to ride. She's on the back of the buggy. She wants to be there. She has her best dress on, and she has that rose in her hand. And she's happy, because I wish I could ride that. And, well, they were not sure they wanted me riding that the way she was riding, you know. And so, well, then we all got to the church, and we were sitting in this amen corner, you know, all the family. We were all in that, you know, we had two what we call amens, on, you know, where usually on just regular sermons the choir would sit one on each side of the church. Pretty much men on one side and women on the other, you know, in regular sermons, but the family was sitting in this kind of amen corner there. And I glanced around, and I could see Uncle Lee and Aunt Hattie, and it was so seldom Uncle Lee ever went anywhere, you know. And Aunt Ola and everybody, and Uncle Lander, he was my
That's
doctor.
all the blacks, huh?
Yeah, my doctor. And then, of course, all the Rozelles were there. Now, the blacks, see, they'd come from far off. They were there. Uncle Lee had borrowed a nice surrey, you know, and... But anyway, all the Rozelles, we were all, the blacks and the Rozelles, but I would glance around, you know, all my kinfolks are here. Just everybody's come here. I was really interested in that, you know. And then, as I said then, Cousin Margie and Cousin Ansel came in. And I don't actually remember us being in the cemetery. It's strange that way. I remember it so well, us going to the church, and us sitting there at the church. Oh, I have a dim memory, we were all out there, something awful was, I knew something awful, you know, but it just seems to be a blur. And then all these kinfolks rode on back home with us. And when we got to the house, it was just filled, the whole house and the hall, porch, and everywhere with kinfolks. It was in September when she died.
That was the house your daddy had built.
Yeah, that house. She died. Diane was born.
Daddy hadn't built it.
I thought he had, that miner built it. Go ahead, though. We'll get back to
Before they
that.
married, he had built the house.
He hadn't built it himself.
No, they had, but it was built when Mother and Daddy went down there, you know. That's the first house they lived in.
Captain Lewis had built it for his daughter,
Oh, yeah.
Birdie.
Oh, yeah.
All right, go ahead. I don't want to...
Yeah.
Oh, well, anyway, with all of us, just all the kinfolks there on the porch and children running up and down the hall and everything, but I was just being real quiet, and I felt funny like. And so nobody was paying me much attention, and then Uncle Lander, this doctor uncle, he brought me, he could pull me up in his lap sitting there, and he says, why, this child has a fever. And he felt something, and then he took my temperature, and by that time all the kinfolks were all interested, you know, and so the little whisper, is this child going to?
Oh, me.
But do you know, there was something about sitting in Uncle Lander's lap, all the kinfolks around, you know, and just all of them so concerned about me. I felt pretty good for the honor. But I knew I felt so sick. But I was glad I knew how concerned they'd all been about little Daisy Lee, you know. And I felt pretty good for that everybody was interested in me to the honor of it, you know. And Uncle Al, and he's a doctor and he knows, and I was glad that I did have the temperature. It proved I really was sick.
Now, I don't want to divert you just altogether from that, but you like to ride from Marvin's Chapel back to the house, and you'd look up on the mountains, and it was so pretty there, and there was a certain spot that you liked, and you referred to it as one time in principle as being it was all dressed up like it was going to church, the mountain. Well,
oh yes, I said that many a time at different places. Well, when we'd be riding, coming back home, you know, when the mountains were in front of us, like we'd been on a trip to Ashland, or even from the church or somewhere, there was a place. There were several places you'd get a good view of the mountain, but there was a place that they were far enough away they looked blue. You know, they just looked blue in the distance. And I'd say, oh, the mountains are all dressed up and ready, just like they're just ready to go to Sunday school. And you know, that's what I'd say on Sunday morning, so down at our house. We'd get me dressed up. We would be getting ready to go to church, you know, getting me ready to go to Sunday school, and I'd walk out on the back porch, and there was a view there. I'd look way up to see the mountains. The mountains are all ready to go to Sunday school, too.
All right, now, I think Ashley, living down there at Hatchet Creek, would want to know how things looked around Granddaddy's place, the store, the house, the blacksmith shop, the gin, and the sidewalk, and the fruit trees, and all of that. Now, you remember that very distinctively.
Oh,
you remember when Daddy would wake up at 2:30 and go toward the gin, and you and Mama wanting to go with him, and him toting you, and you ended up in the cotton while he started up the cotton
Oh,
gin.
yeah, Mother and I both.
You told me it was more or less like a little town there.
Yeah.
Everything was humming.
It was. And Mother and I both, you see, when we'd get to the gin, we would just both snuggle down in that cotton and go to sleep. And Daddy would start the gin up, and it would shake that whole gin house. Oh, it felt like you were on a train or something. You were just going, and it was, and I dozed off to sleep like that, you know, and it was just such a good, I just liked to hear it. But as Sherwood said, it was like a little town there, because now there was this little sidewalk between our house and to Grandma's old house there, to the store. Uncle Drew was running the store, you know, so Grandpa had run that store. And every day Mother would, when I got old enough to go to the store by myself, so she'd have some reason to send me to the store, you know, for something. And I could just remember walking on that sidewalk. And I don't know if in my mind, I'd think to myself, I'd be walking along, and I was always, in my imagination, I was thinking all kind of wonderful. I'd think more wonderful things, you know.
Amen.
And I'd think to myself, now today I'm a little city girl, and I'm on the sidewalk in this city, and I'm just walking along, going to the store up here. I'd just be walking along in my head, and just these things going through. I'm a little rich girl, always invariably. I'm a little rich girl, a little city girl too, but I'm a little rich girl. And I have everything in the world I want.
All right, now describe let's see, where Eugene's house and that barn is, that was where Grandpa Rozelle lived. And then back toward the woods was that two-story log house where Enoch lived. And then across from where Uncle Drew lived, where Daddy grew up, well, where Uncle Drew lived, and Granddaddy lived in the inn when Uncle Marvin took care of him when he had a cancer down there. Uncle Marvin eventually lived across the road from Uncle Drew.
Yeah.
And we lived down there where, between, say where Eugene lives now and that old Uncle Frank place.
Well,
And then Eddie Rozelle lived down there, and sort of bring them up to date where Uncle Sam lived and Uncle Albert lived,
yeah.
and all of our relatives.
But now this place where Grandpa Enoch lived first, you see, it was between our house and the Uncle Frank house, you know, on the same side of the road. Only there was a little off-road that went
Back, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't that off-road go up kind of towards the cemetery?
Toward the
Yeah.
cemetery. It was, and now that was the most interesting little walk. I took that little walk practically every day, going to Aunt Charlotte's house.
That's what I was going to say. That was called Aunt Charlotte House later.
Yeah,
Charlotte Good Game.
yeah, Aunt Charlotte Good Game, and I just loved Aunt Charlotte. And Mother would let me take a little walk to Aunt Charlotte's house, and it was there seldom. But what Mother, she and I both would walk to Aunt Charlotte's house, you know, taking our little walks. But that was very interesting going there, because when I first remember, there were a lot of these old flowers and bushes and things that had been planted there and put out there when Grandpa Enoch lived there, you see. There were old crepe myrtles, cape jessamines, and just all kind of, you know, these flowers that still remained, even though they'd been moved all that time. Aunt Charlotte, of course, now, she took care of them as long as she lived there.
Well, didn't a Chandler live there before Enoch?
Yes, he lived there. First, he bought it from Mr. Bull.
Right.
Now, Mr. Bull was the one that first lived there. And he had, and it was a nice house when he built it for the time, you see, in those pioneer days. But the trouble was, he went up on the mountain hunting one day, and the Indians shot him, Mr. Bull. And so then, Grandpa Chandler bought it, the place from Miss Bull. You know, she decided to leave there. So then they lived there. They were living there when the Civil War came along. The Chandlers were.
Well, now where was John Rozelle living then? He was across the mountain, or in Kalita? Uh-huh.
Well, at that time, when the Civil War came, now he was living at that house too, because he had not married yet, you see. He was still at home when the Civil War came along. Wait a minute. Now I'm getting this wrong. Now wait a minute. Now the Chandlers lived there. That's Grandma Roselle's parents, you see.
Right.
Now they lived there when the Civil War came. But now when, at that time, Grandpa Enoch, I think he had him a place. Do you remember, Marcia, did it Kalita Hugh Edwards?
Okay, Grandpa Enoch lived at Nottingham in the Talladega Valley, and sometime before the Civil War, he bought a place at Kalita,
Yeah.
and it ended up that he sold part of his place to Uncle Ashley and part to Uncle Sam. And I think that John, our granddaddy, was living at Kalita at the time the war came on, and attended a school between there and where the Chandlers lived. And of course, when he went off to the war, he was in the 1st Regiment that was organized in the South, in Alabama. It happened in Alabama.
Yeah.
And he went by the schoolhouse to tell what was our grandmother Chandler's name? Mary or what?
Catherine Elizabeth.
Catherine Elizabeth.
They called her
He
Lizzie.
told her goodbye.
Yeah.
And goodbye, and he got on a train, and he rode to Dolphin Island, and that train had to come through Atmore, which was Williams Station. The train had been completed in 1861. I mean, it's obvious he didn't walk there.
Yeah.
So the first part of the war, he was at Dolphin Island, and then later on, why he went up and he was with Hood in Tennessee. He was at Vicksburg. He was in all. I don't think John ever did. Those blacks went on up into Virginia and charged at Gettysburg, you know.
Yeah.
But our granddaddy Rozelle, they were more of that army garden in Tennessee and Georgia, and they surrendered over there in North Carolina.
Didn't Milton go?
Milton went, and he never did come back. A story has it that he was awfully sick, and he was, they had found an old buggy, and they got to a place, and Milton couldn't go any further, he and his buddy. And so he died at this house, and the woman, the lady, she had lost her son in the army, and they put her son's clothes on Milton and buried him in the garden. Now I would like to know where Milton is buried.
Yeah, that would
It could be in South Carolina, it could be in Georgia, it could be in North Alabama.
Yeah.
Uncle Sam went to the war. John went to the war, Milton went to the war, and Sam went to the war. I don't believe Uncle Ashley
No,
went.
I think he was, one of the youngest. Well, I remember when we used to take, when I was a child, take these trips to Talladega, and we'd come to an old stone fence, a stone wall, and Daddy would say, now your grandpa, when he was a boy, he used to walk on top of that stone wall on the way to school. You remember that stone wall?
I don't remember, but he's talking about around Kalita. Ain't no doubt about it.
Yeah, after we
Ain't
first
no doubt about it.
I,
See, they came from the Talladega Valley, the lower part of Talladega Valley, toward Talladega Springs, Nottingham,
yeah.
and that old Armbruster Cemetery. And then they went to Kalita, and then from Kalita they bought the old Chandler place at Hatchet Creek. And someday you ought to find out when, and we may have it among our effects, when we first got that land at Hatchet Creek. Of course, we added to it,
It was, of course, after the Civil War. After the war, Grandpa Chandler got this notion. He wanted to go to Texas. He wanted to take his family to.
They had come from Texas. The Chandlers had come from Texas.
They had.
Yeah.
Well,
Bill and that bunch from Chandler Springs, they'd all come from Texas.
so
And then they're going back.
They went
yeah, they
back.
were going back to Texas. So they sold. That was when they sold that plantation to Grandpa Rozelle, and that was after to Grandpa Enoch. You see. Wait a minute.
Do Enoch. That's right.
Yeah,
Enoch.
to Enoch. That was, and it was after the war. Even when the war was over, that he that when they left. You see.
Now,
But in the
Now,
meantime,
up until John was over just before the war, really. Enoch had married a lady who died up in
that was their mother.
up in Decatur. Enoch had died, lady up in Decatur. Then he married a Sawyer,
Yeah.
and she was from Talladega County, that big old Sawyer plantation. And she was the mother of Edward and Marvin and
No, she was the mother of John and Ashley and all of them, the Sawyer. See, Grandma Rozelle.
Yeah, well, that's right. She was that was Enoch's wife.
Yeah.
And she was the mother of Ashley and Milton and John and Drew, etc., and Frank. But I believe that before we leave here, that these children would like to be able to visualize. You told them where? Have you told them where the store and the gin was, and where all those kinfolks lived back in those days? I mean, they know where old Uncle Frank Rozelle lived.
Well, now, where our little town, just right together, what I consider Rozelle town, you know, with the store and all that. Now, there was our house, and then I'd come on that little sidewalk going up to Uncle Drew's house. It had been Grandma Roselle's house. Well, in the front of that yard, there was a nice country store. And then right across from the store, well, on the other side of that little field road was the blacksmith shop. And in those early days, every time I would pass that blacksmith shop, somebody, it seems to be working there and be red hot, you know, that stuff. And Uncle Marvin, you see, was the one that took charge of that blacksmith shop.
Uncle Marvin at the blacksmith shop.
And Daddy, now the mill, the
Cotton gin?
The cotton gin was across from the road where the store was, and Daddy took charge of the cotton gin. And now the country store, after Grandpa died, Uncle Drew took charge of the store. And let's see, was the...
Well, did John Rozelle, the father of my daddy, I guess he just wore overalls and...
No, according to Cousin Edna Rozelle, now she was Cousin Ed's sister, you see.
And is that Frank's children? Old Uncle Frank Roselle's children?
Yeah.
They moved to Sylacauga?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Cousin Edna was the youngest.
Edna.
Edna, but you see, when I was a child, I called her Cousin Edna.
Edna?
Yeah, Cousin
Okay.
Edna. And she told, you know, we'd laugh when we'd talk on her. She said, I want you to just keep on calling me Edna. You know, and when I first learned to talk, Cousin Edna. But anyway, what was it I started to tell? Oh,
I
yeah,
want to know if he wasn't a broke-in,
and no, she said,
wore overalls and
she said
made his own shoes.
That day, that last time we were talking over the phone, before she went back, you know, to Talladega County for good. For a long time she was living here, you know, in this county. Well, anyway, we were talking about old times, how she used to like to come to our house, you know, and then she was mentioning about Uncle John. She said, you know, Uncle John was a man that, oh yes, he had that farm, but he had the appearance of a gentleman's farmer. Always, as long as I remember, he had his white shirt on and his good clothes. And he looked to me like he was ready to go to church. He was what I'd call him a gentleman's farmer.
Okay, now John was older than Ashley and Sam and Drew and Frank, wasn't he?
Oh, he was the oldest child.
And he was really the real brother, wasn't he? I mean, didn't he do a lot better than all the rest of them? Didn't he accumulate more than all the rest of them? Now, come on and be honest.
I don't know whether he... In a way he did, you see. In a way he did. You know, after all, a man that had a gin, a blacksmith, a store, and, you know, he was a man that did things very definitely. Of course, now, with this family of boys, you know, he had these ready-made hands, you see, to do these things. And he was, and if you remember in this in this Hatchet Creek book that Mr. Garrett wrote, do you remember?
Yeah.
About that. One thing he mentioned about Grandpa was that he always had a paper. Always there was a paper coming in. You know, he took I guess it was a weekly paper.
Tri-weekly Constitution.
Yeah, it was that's what it was. Tri-weekly Constitution. You know, Daddy could remember. It always made an impression on him. That tri-weekly Constitution coming into that house when he was little. He said, you know, those Uncle Remus stories. Well, the Uncle Remus stories, this man that wrote them, George Handler Harris, you see, he lived in Atlanta. And in every issue of that paper, they had the Uncle Remus stories, and there was a man that illustrated them, you see. And the children there, Daddy said he'd look forward to seeing Uncle Remus. Oh, he just liked to see what Uncle Remus was doing.
Now, I'm not butting in.
Yeah.
Don't think I'm butting in. But now, you told me that Daddy would tell you these Uncle Remus stories. And that story that I remember most from you was about those little squirrels that somebody wanted to get across Hatchet Creek. And those little squirrels, with the use of their tails, made it possible to build a bridge. Now, did you mean to tell me did he read that, or did it come out of his own mind?
Well,
I'd like you to tell that story to Ashley, and Lee, I think, could get a large charge out of it.
He made it up as he went along. I know Mother she would say, "Oh, what an imagination that man has! How do you think of those things, Edward?" Well, now he didn't start from scratch on it, you see. He didn't call them the Uncle Remus stories, but I knew there had been some stories about animals in the paper, you see. You know, this is this first memory I have of Daddy telling me these stories. And so he didn't tell them to me all the time, but when I'd get puny, or feel a little sad about something, well, I'd like Mother and Daddy to do things to cheer me up, you know. And Daddy, if I was under the weather, tell me about, it was raccoons. It was
raccoons.
It was raccoons. And tell me about that raccoon, and that would make me feel better. And so he would start telling that story, and see, they got to the creek, and they couldn't get across. But they worked it out. See, they joined tails, they twisted them around. It was just a foot log across the creek with these, the raccoons made. And whoever it was, I don't remember whether it was another animal that went over or who went over it, but they made a foot log across the creek. But Daddy had weaved that over, you know.
I'll be right back. I'm going to listen to this now. Ask her some.
You know, when I was saying you sounded like, you looked like Michael, it was, I was thinking it was all positive equipment. You low down thing. You're the tape in there.
Yeah.
You're just tape.
Right. This is just like on TV.
Oh.
It's a thing, and I bet you Michael, as much as he's into that electronic stuff, I bet you he's got some stuff like that.
Yes. You know, he has these pictures that he's made on their travels, and he puts them up on his home movies, you see. But now he has
Give me the car keys. Give me.
As they go along, you see, his voice goes along. He matched it up with the pictures explaining.
Yeah, who is that, Daddy?
No, this was Michael with these pictures. And then there's one picture about in the Smokies, and they look so pretty. These mountains do. And he has these mountains were supposed to be in West Virginia, I believe. And this man that sings that song, The Mountains of West Virginia, is it Johnny
Blue Ridge
Denver
Mountain.
or
Yeah,
something?
John Denver.
Oh, and he has, it's sort of a sad but thrilling voice, and it goes right along with the pictures. As the picture, it just matches, you know, his voice, he has it matched up.
It slides in a...
Yeah, there's
oh,
slides
yeah.
as they come.
Well, wait, I gotta ask her something. Go to medical school and law school. The purpose.
Now, you got your book, Mr. Justice and Ms. Black.
Oh, you
Yeah.
know, now Anne's read the book, and she got it at the library. And she says, now, Mama, don't you want me to bring it back to you? I said, Hugo's book tore me up so that I don't think I can try.
Okay. On summer, wait a minute, now you was there. On summer visits to my sister, Daisy Black Rozelle, who lived in the Hatchet Creek community, I frequently went into the woods along the creek bank near her home and practiced speaking alone. I always thought, sister, that you, I always thought that he always took you everywhere,
Well,
and now he's saying that he used to practice speeches.
Well, he did a lot of, rambling around, and I'm sure he didn't take me all the time.
Yeah.
But all I remember is when he carried me, you see,
Yeah.
and us walking and talking. But,
How did he take it?
well, now, when we were just around the house, he was toting me all the time, throwing me over his shoulders and all that. Oh, it was just real thrilling. But now, when we were walking down to the creek that way, I would be walking, and, he'd be holding my hand. We'd be walking along together. Because that was sort of steep to be toting a big child like that all the way, But now, when we were just out in the yard around there, I could just hear Mother say, Hugo, you're going to spoil that child.
Let me ask you this. Was he sort of a health nut, or
Oh, he was.
what do you mean by that?
I mean, he ate. He was in bad health. I think he was afraid he was going to take TB. And so he slept with his windows wide open, even in a bad rain or anything that way. And he had to have, I don't know how many times a day, they beat up the eggs uncooked. Oh, he ate, I don't know how many eggs he ate like that. I don't know how.
Who would fix them for him?
Well, he would think he'd whip them up.
Huh?
I think he would do it himself, but Mother would help him with a lot of the stuff he was doing. But I think he fixed his own eggs just the way he wanted them, just beat them up.
I thought he just broke them and put them in a salter and just diced them down
He
his throat.
probably did. It probably was a wishful thinking. I hoped he beat them up before he just put them. I saw a man on TV just take. I'll tell you who I saw, that Lucy show when she was a bag woman. You remember? When she was just eating everything she could find. So, the man gave her a fresh egg, and she just burst, and then she just ate it. Oh!
I couldn't
I
have
want
that.
you to listen to this. Hugo Jr. said that one of these teachers was whipping on Mama and pulled a dress up, and he went running across the street and got his mama.
Yeah.
And that Hugo got to fighting the teacher. But now listen to this. This is Uncle Hugo talking. He wrote the first part of this book.
Yeah, I know.
My course in school at Ashland ran along smoothly until 1902-3 term. That year, the trustees named two very recent college graduates to be joint principals of the school, Professor Yarber, a Baptist, and Turnipseed, a Methodist. Both were nice people who probably needed more experience before undertaking to manage a school like Ashland College. Now, I want you to listen to this, Lee. My only run-in with either one occurred when Professor Turnipseed thought that I had dropped a book on the bench too heavily when I started to the blackboard for some work. The professor told me with considerable sharpness to go back and lay it down easily. This I did, and nothing further came of that particular subject. I was at that time about 16 years of age, and I had a sister nearly 5 years older in school. Now, if he was 16, would Mama been 21?
Well, if he was 16,
Was she still going when she was 21?
well, she went. Mother was behind in her schoolwork. But, when she had typhoid fever, she lost some years there because she was just left in a bad shape there. She just almost died. And she didn't go right back to school. But now he's wrong on that date.
How old was Mama when she got married?
She was married in 1905.
All right. Now, how old was Ada Maida?
I think it was 25.
25.
I believe.
Well, she could have been going to school when she was 21.
But it was at the time she got a whipping.
Well, this is...
But now he was not a whipping. Diane said he...
I was
he
at
did
that
an
time
awful lot.
about 16 years of age and had a sister nearly 5 years old in school. Now, listen to this.
But Diane...
One day, in February, I was told that because my sister had whispered at her desk, Professor Turnipseed had her stand on one foot, it's my mother, in the corner of his room. And this struck me as very bad. So I went across the street to my home and reported it to my mother. She told me to go back to school and tell Professor to let my sister come home. I did, but to my surprise, the professor, instead of permitting my sister to go home, announced that he was going to whip me. Whip me. I was a joke.
I did over at Grandma, too. And, Grandpa went across there, about it. Really talked to that man about it.
You know whether was that turnip seed or was
I
that...
don't know, but you see, that was years before that. Now, 1902, Uncle. Now, did he go on and tell about that the woman, that did they whip Mother, too?
Never did. See, Hugo Jr. said the professor was whipping Mama,
Well, that is.
and Hugo went running across the street and got Grandma, and that the teacher had pulled up Mama's dress and was letting her have it.
Yeah.
Okay, now Hugo himself, who was the chief actor in the drama, said that Mama had whispered to somebody.
Yeah.
The professor had her standing in a corner on one foot, like this, and that Hugo didn't think that was fair, and went across the street and told Grandma. And then he came back, and much to his surprise, he found out that they were going to whip him. And so one professor tried to whip him, and he just broke the switch. And then that professor told the other professor to get some switches and hold it. Whereupon Hugo again broke the switches. And then Hugo, then the professor asked some of the pupils to go and to get some switches. Whereupon none of the students would go.
Oh,
And so, as a consequence, Grandma came over, and Hugo never attended school there anymore. He never did get his high school diploma. He never did get his college. He never did get his college degree. Aunt Ora did, Uncle Lee did, Pelham did, and they all did, but Uncle Hugo didn't. And of course, as you said, Mama had typhoid fever, was that it?
Yeah.
And she missed out 2 or 3 years, and she sort of almost hot back in those days. But when I knew her, I never did notice that she popped it off.
She sort of bragged that
She might have drove a little bit. But now, what amazed me was the date. And
you would think
let's get a pencil down. And now, if Hugo was 16, well, you take. He was born in 1886. He was born in 1886, and in 1902, 1886, and if he is 16 years old, 2, 6 is 12, 8, 9, 10, that'd be 19, 2, that'd be 16. All right, now Mama was born in what year?
81, I think.
1981. 1981. And so if it happened in 1902, you subtract, that'd be 1, and 8 from 9, 8 from 0 would be 2. She would have been 21. Pray tell me, was Mama going to school at the age of 21? I guess so, because it was a college. She had missed out.
Yeah.
She had stayed out of school 2 or 3 years at the time Vernon had died. And I want you, well, we won't argue with that. I believe Hugo's right. He should be right. But it's funny how Hugo Jr. told it, and it's an entirely different story.
And Mother, it was different the way Mother told
Well,
it.
now, Mama, now, wait. Now, Mama never told me about that. And in the presence of my son and my grandchildren, please tell me what Mama said.
Well,
that's who I'm going to believe.
She said when this teacher did try to whip her, you see, and pull her dress up.
Is that what
And
Mama said?
And that was what tore Grandma up, so, but I don't think she'd have been any 21 years old, anybody daring do a thing like that.
But on the other hand, it's clear that Hugo had to be about 16 years old.
Yeah, but did it happen right then? I don't know.
Well, he says, both Hugo Jr. and Uncle Hugo said the reason that he did not ever finish school, he stopped right then.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have put her but Mama said that, which one of those professors was doing that to her?
Well, she did.
I thought it was that one that later on became president of the Abercrombie, that became
President of what?
of University of Alabama. He's president of Ashland. I got something in writing that said he's president of Ashland and president of University of Alabama. And so when everybody talks about Ashland College being a joke, and then a few years later, the president of Ashland College being the president of the University of Alabama, then I'm wondering how much of a joke it was.
It was a very good place.
It was. I read over at Mildred's house the catalog, and just before one of those Hugo Black things, and we read that till about 3 o'clock one morning, and they taught Latin, and they taught all the mathematics. And that was a good school, and they had people going to that school from Texas, from Texas, from Arkansas, from Boaz, from Talladega, from Skipperville. That old Ben Ray was up there from down there. Where was he from? Down there in Tallapoosa County.
Ben Ray.
Yeah, Ben Ray.
Well, he was from Clay County too, wasn't he?
No, Ben was from Hackneyville. Where did Uncle Stephen Pearson come from?
I think he came from there too.
Okay, that's where Ben Ray, but Ben Ray, you know, came to the house a lot of time on Hugo in the old days.
Yeah,
Now, did y'all, you just got so much time, I know we got to go, but did she give you a pretty good picture of Hatchet Creek where y'all could sort of visualize it? Where did Uncle Albert live?
Well, he lived in that, just below Uncle Frank's house, you know, the Uncle Frank house.
On the left?
Yeah, on the left, too.
That house is standing there now that's
Yes.
painted?
Yes. And right across the road was the Blair house.
Uh-huh. Where Uncle Asa Blair lived.
Uncle Asa and Aunt, I forget what everybody called her Aunt somebody.
But Uncle Frank married his daughter, is that right?
Something that way.
And they were primitive
Yeah,
Baptists.
they were the...
Okay, now where did Uncle Sam Rozelle live? Now,
He lived at Coluda. But
I know, but he came back there.
Yeah.
There was a house painted down below the Albert Bryant house.
The place when he lived at Hatchet Creek, Uncle Sam, he lived, well, at one time Cousin Ed Rozelle lived there too. It was a house on that left-hand side of the road, you know, as you're going down the road somewhere, you know, from our house.
Mm-hmm.
And it was up on the hill.
That's right.
And
It was beyond the Albert Bryant house.
Yeah, between the Albert Bryant house and Uncle Al, and of course first across the street would be Uncle Frank's house, and on down below Uncle Albert's house.
And across the road to the right was Asa Blair house.
Yeah.
Now, all right, now for the benefit, at one time, Daddy owned several houses down at Hatchet Creek. He owned the house where I was born. He owned, and when Mama inherited, she inherited money at different times. She bought the old Frank Rozelle place that Eddie now owns, and she took they moved. Uncle Frank moved to Silicon.
Yes.
Okay. Then we owned the Albert Bryant place where we used to go down there in a one-horse wagon and have picnics, and we slept in that house.
Yeah, now that place, it was just with our, you know, the house where we lived. It was with that farm. They didn't buy that extra.
I know it, but it was a house.
It was a house,
And people
yes.
lived in it.
Yeah.
And people rented land.
Oh, yes. But what
All right, now, I mean, you agree with that?
Oh, yes.
All right, then, do you remember when you get down to the Uncle Frank Rozelle's house and turn to the right to go toward that cemetery and Holland, there was a little house on the left where we had tenants living there. It was just a little shotgun house. Do you remember that house?
On the Uncle Frank place?
It was on the other, it was beyond, it was going toward the cemetery. And we spent the night there one time with one tenant, or if I'm not mistaken, Eddie Rozelle. And then we had the gravy place where Albert Lee and Eddie and Ashley and Lee lived. We had the gravy place. We had the place, the old Captain, Lewis place. That was where I was born.
Yeah.
Okay, he had built that house for his daughter. And then we owned the Uncle Frank Rozelle place, and we owned the Albert Bryant place, and another little place. You don't, I can see you're pegged in real good, except that little place, you don't seem to visualize that.
Well, of course, I know that, was it close to, you know, Grandpa Enoch's house by the cemetery?
Yeah, well, it was on that road going toward the cemetery. Now, Uncle Enoch's place was way to the right beyond the cemetery. But it was on this side of the rail.
More behind the Uncle Frank house?
Yeah.
Well, Uncle George told me about a house back there.
Yeah, I remember. Lord, I remember this.
Remember what now?
I remember a little house. It was the smallest one we had. It was just one big room and maybe a kitchen and a dining room, and we'd always have one tenant living there, and we'd have a tenant living in that Uncle on the Albert Bryant place. A lot of times that thing would be empty, you know.
Yeah.
Were they paying tenants or were they
Well, they were
sharecropping?
working on thirds and fourths.
Uh,
They were working on thirds and fourths. Okay.
I remember one time passing the Uncle Frank house. They had some ripe peaches there in the orchard, and I stepped over and I got me some. I stole the peaches, you see.
oh,
And so my conscience hurt me. They tasted so good, just so good. And I was like you, Edward, about the car. I didn't particularly care if anybody know about it, you know. But still, when I went home, before I went to bed, I got worried about it. What if I died during the night and wouldn't be ready, you know, and
Sure would.
I'm stealing these peaches, you know. And I confessed it to Mother and Daddy. And Daddy said, now just where was it, do you say? And I told him, you know, it was a Raven family that was living there at the time. You know, there was, in that place, there were brothers to the other.
Yeah, one of them was named Binion, and one was named
Minion?
Minion Grave.
Minion Grave, yeah. I believe he was the one that lived up there.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, go ahead. Let me
But
go.
anyway, that was their dad. Of course, Daddy, at the last, he said, now, of course, we own that place, but you're not supposed to get it without asking them. You should almost always ask, but I felt so much better when to go to sleep, you know, after confessing this thing.
Well,
I did it just be my luck.
when Grandma Rozelle died, now the bells started ringing.
Yeah, that was when she got real sick, you see. When anybody would get real sick down there, and the men folks, you know, down in the fields, most of the families had at least quite a few down there. They had the dinner bells, you see, and there was a dinner bell at Grandma's house, and so Grandma, you know, she'd been in health she was in bad health for 2 years before she died, and the first time she got real sick, that was the first time, that awful time, Mother said, when the bell rang, they knew something bad was going on up there, and they all hurried up to the house, and Grandma, you know, was in a bad shape. And so after that, when the bell would ring, they pretty know that something happened to Grandma. But now, in her last sickness there, Hugo was down at our house, and Mother was giving me a bath. And that was before Daisy Lee was born. I guess I was about 2 years old. I have a little memory of Grandma. I guess I was 3 years old. Because I do have this memory on her. But anyway, the bell was ringing. Mother said, now that's Mother Rozelle. That's what she called it. So she didn't even take me out of that bathtub. Uncle Hugo said he attended me. And so Mother went rushing up there, up to the house, you know, to see what was wrong with Grandma. And of course she was in a bad shape when she got up there. And so Uncle Hugo, he got me out of my bath and got me dressed some way. Mother said I was dressed in a pretty funny way when we came walking up the road. He came on up to Grandma's too, you know, with me, and he'd gotten me all dressed.
Did y'all ever go to the Primitive Baptist Church? You know, didn't you, I mean, it wasn't a common occurrence, but didn't you and Mama and Uncle Hugo and some of you go to the Primitive Baptist Church?
Yes.
When they were washing feet or
Yes.
something like that?
You see, the Blairs went to that church, and we went, you know, we visited all those different churches down there, but one time Uncle Hugo was down there. And so that day, they have a custom of washing their feet. I don't think they did it every Sunday, but that Sunday, I remember those men. There were some elderly men. I could just see those elderly men, and they rolled the pants legs up. I could just see their white legs, and took off their shoes and their stockings and rolled up the pants leg. And then this preacher was putting a kind of apron around him, getting himself ready, and then he knelt down and he began washing their feet. And Uncle Hugo got tickled, and he was not supposed to, because that was
Tickled in
sacrilegious.
church?
It was sacrilegious. And he should have, our mother always warned us when we went to the bigger church to never make like you were tickled and amused at what they were doing, you know. Well, Mother was really getting Uncle Hugo there. You know, she was punching him, and then stop that, not to do it. Well, anyway, Miss Blair would have torn Mother up.
Did she ever quiet Hugo down?
Yes, she finally did.
Did he realize, did he ever have the realization that he shouldn't have been laughing in church?
Well, I guess he did when Mother finished with him, because she explained that it was not to be done, you see.
Let me ask you another, that sort of finished that thing up to a soda water finish. Let me ask you another thing. I understand y'all had a new piano. I understand that Uncle Hugo come down there, had to have his fresh air.
Yeah, I've always tried to forget that.
I wish you'd try to remember it again for the children's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, after all, he offered to pay for the piano.
I know it. He offered
Just
to pay.
as good as
but
it
Mother
could be.
breathed so about the piano being hurt, so it's one of those memories. It's not a nice memory, what happened to the piano, that I like to...
Well, Albert Lee's got it up at his store right now.
Well, I know that, but it always shows, you know, it looks like it's been wet.
Hippie.
Yeah, like it's
So
been
little-
wet. Well, it was a new piano, and Mother was so proud of it, you see.
Who bought it for him? Daddy bought it for him?
Yeah, well, I guess, you know.
Two for her to play, or for you to learn to
Well,
play?
it was before, it was just, you know, Mother liked to play the piano. That was long before I'd have been taking music lessons. And it was just, you know, at that time, down at Hatchet Creek, most people would get a piano if they could, whether anybody played. You know, it's just, there were more pianos. Of course, more people had organs than pianos, but you had an organ or a piano at your house. But anyway, we got this new piano, and we were, Mother was so proud of that thing. It was pretty, and it had a good tone, and I can just see her sitting there. She'd go in there during the day and play, and she had a way of patting her foot, and she'd keep time, you know, with her music. And it was mostly sacred songs that she would be playing, but there'd be songs that had spirit, and she had that foot, you know, keeping time with it, and I would be so impressed that she'd sing them too. I really loved to hear her. They were real pretty songs. But if we hadn't had it for just a month or two, and Uncle Hugo came up there to stay a few days, and he was real uneasy. That was when he was going easy about his health, and he was taking those raw eggs, and he was sleeping with his windows wide open, whatever the weather was at that time of treatment. You know, when you get out, if you were taking TV, to get out in tents, you know, out in the yard or anything, just to have fresh air. And so it was pouring rain, and it was, as the night went on, the wind was blowing. It was just blowing the rain in. And so Mother told him, now I was standing there, and Mother came in, she told you, well, she started, you know, real, that nice way, she could do very nice. Now, Hugo, I know you need the air, but with the rain, I'm just so uneasy about this piano, with the dampness on this wood. I'm just so uneasy. He said, why, it won't hurt it. But Mother went and got quilts, all kind of quilts, and put over it. But as the night went on, the wind was blowing, and sure enough, it had gotten real wet. Oh, it's a memory I don't like to remember, because Mother loved the piano, and it was hurt that way. And Uncle Hugo was sorry. He didn't realize it would really do it, you know. And not that I was just still thinking hard of it. You know, it was more, what reason the memories so bad, it is that Mother was so worried about it. And me standing there while they were talking, and then the next morning the awfulest going, it happened.
Sister, I walked into Uncle Hugo's house on South Lee Street, and I noticed that bed that Grandpa Tolan had made, that spoof bed, that pretty bed, and I noticed a counterpin on top of it. Is it a counterpin? Do they call it counterpin?
Yeah.
And I said, good gracious life, Uncle Hugo, you got my bed and your counterpin. I slept on this bed all my life. What are you doing with it up here? And he laughed and he says, well, Daisy and Edward sent it to me. Now, why did they send my bed off?
Well, Aunt Ora was the one that...
Aunt Ora?
That really caused the Mother to do it. It seemed that Uncle Hugo, you know, she had spent some time at Uncle Hugo's house, and he was sort of brooding that he didn't get anything from home.
Oh, sure.
And he didn't get anything from home. And how he would have liked, and I guess Aunt Ora said, oh, and it would have, that nice bed, so historical, and him on the court, it would be so nice, this historical thing, to be at Uncle Hugo's house, you know. And so when she came downstairs, well, she made Mother feel it was pretty much her duty, you know, to do it. So it doesn't matter to me. I wouldn't want to.
Well, what, did they send it up to Washington?
Yeah, Uncle Hugo paid for it, though. He paid for the shipping.
Well, did y'all did Daddy and Mama let him know that they were going to send it?
Yes, she wrote him and asked him, would he like to have it? That,
what, did he write?
He would like it. Oh, he would more than anything. He certainly would. And Josephine wrote the letter, you know. They'd just be so happy to, but they insisted on it.
Did Mama mention the fact that Aunt Ora had suggested it?
I don't know whether she did or not.
But in any event, I think they sort of, didn't Daddy take a hammer and a nail and some planks and nail that stuff together and ship it by train? I think it went by train.
Yeah, but he didn't pay for the shipping. Uncle Hugo paid for the shipping.
Oh, he did?
Oh, yes. Because when Mother wrote, would they like it? And Josephine in the letter, she says, yes, but nowadays we insist on paying, you know, to get it done.
What about that counterpin?
Well, now that, Mother just sent that after all, you know, Grandma made that.
Well, how many counterpins did Grandma made? I remember that Grace had something to say in her little booklet about, she ended up with one, Mama ended up with one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who made Grandma, did Della make it?
Yeah, it was about worn out. We just about wore that one out, though. You know, in the raising of the children, Mother really used it, you see.
But do you remember that old bed? For a long time, it was out at the garage, almost in the weather, and for some reason, Daddy or Mama got it all fixed up and set it up there in that middle room, and we all started sleeping on it. I mean, not Mama and Daddy, but me and Albert Lee.
Yeah. Well, I tell you that we got that bed after Uncle Hugo and Uncle Lee moved. After they moved to Malamala. You see, it had been, they had it out in their barn or something.
Yeah.
You know, they hadn't been something had gotten wrong with
They
it.
had put it in their barn like they put Pelham's picture and Vernon's picture in that barn.
Mhm.
And don't you remember we inherited that saddle, Grandma Black's saddle,
Yeah.
that had that sort of red, it was leather, but yet it had sort of red cloth.
Yeah,
And
the
it was a
woman's
woman's saddle where you threw your leg over it like that. Do you remember that saddle?
Yeah.
You know what happened to that
No,
saddle?
I don't.
I
Now,
would like
Mother,
to have that. I would
tell you.
like to have actually had that saddle.
Did we ever, do you remember that we actually brought that one to our house?
It was when Uncle Lee moved, it ended up at our house
It
and
did?
stayed there for years.
Well, I don't.
But, you know, after all, when we started moving away and we put everything out of the house into the garage and part in the house, well, everybody said those blacks came, Hadley and Mildred and all of them, and they'd go through that stuff and they picked up that guitar, you know. Now, I don't know who's good. We ended up with a guitar, and I know they wanted that guitar back. The children getting a little bit restless, but is this some of the stuff that you wanted?
This is all good.
Huh? It's
Yeah.
all good?
Yeah. I just hope the batteries have gone out 2 or 3 times, and it'd be maybe 5 minutes. I wasn't getting anything before I realized it. Well, we're
But
still.
you have no idea where the batteries went dead. Huh? Well, is there anything else you want out of us two old cooters?
No. I just wish Aunt Audrey would come to Hatchet Creek and visit us a little bit.
Well, how's Ruth getting along these days?
She's doing fine. We sold the daycare center that she was running. That thing like to killed her.
And you did actually sell it
Right.
then?
And so she's doing fine, and we're getting ready. You know, in about 3 weeks, we'll go back down to Gulf Shores for the summer.
Lee will start on his job. Ruth will start on her job. Eddie's getting him a job lined up, and Ashley's getting some kind of little work that I think she's going to
No,
do.
Ashley, too.
Huh?
I'm hearing
Well,
about
she
Lee.
wants to, let's put it like that.
She's interested in finding employment.
In part.
Oh, I want to go back to, this is all of those conversations that you and I have had. I never knew about poor Uncle Vernon, who died when he was 17, you know. I never knew that some teacher beat him so bad till they left marks on him when he was dead. Do you know why Uncle Vernon got beat?
I was trying, I'm not sure why it was, but they didn't think he deserved it. And certainly Grandpa didn't think he did, you know. Grandpa didn't like it when they whipped him that way, but he especially didn't like it when he died and the stripes were still on him, you know.
I think these children would like to know when Mama had the typhoid, and we sort of ended up with this. She had the typhoid fever. She was laying in her bed. She was suffering. Granddaddy Black was walking up and down the hall, wringing his hands, and then Vernon had said, "I can never, ever suffer like Daisy." And Grandma getting on to him and said, "Don't make a statement like that you won't live." And and Mama could hear. And then Uncle Vernon died. Uncle Vernon did come down. And Uncle Vernon died. And Mama could hear her daddy saying, "One of them dead and another died. One of them here and another was dying." And Mama heard that. And she was so determined that she was going to live. Now, sister, you heard it from the lips of Mama. I believe I just hit some of the high places. Could you let these children know about that?
Well, now, you pretty much covered it now. these feelings that she had. Now, part of the time when, when, like Grandpa, he didn't really realize that they had the idea Mother was unconscious. She wasn't realizing, that Uncle Vernon was actually dead. And they were surprised, when they found that she began getting better, that she knew. She said she knew when he was dead. And but they were not really telling her, you see. But she didn't know. She knew she was going to work at it. She was not going to die too,
Well, did Uncle Vernon tell them all that he couldn't suffer?
Oh, yes, he did. He told Grandma, but Grandma told him, said, if you get sick, and you, with saying this, you see, that you couldn't get well, you would not. If you are sure you're not going to get well, the thing is you shouldn't get sick, with that feeling, because you wouldn't if you felt that way. Because there's something in when you're pulling, to get well, that has a lot to do with it, whether you do or not. And I think it does.
Okay, Uncle Vernon and Uncle Pelham were great speakers. And back in those days, you went to school, but on Friday, pretty much so, it was Declamation Day.
Oh, yeah.
And there were special occasions when you made these wonderful oratorical speeches, as Uncle Hugo said, that he spoke about this fellow that drank that cursed whiskey and all like that, and that he lost a fellow that spoke on the New South. There was a South of secession and slavery. That South is dead. There is a South of union and freedom. That South is living, breathing, growing every hour. And well, that fella won the speech where Uncle Hugo says, strike me dead if I ever drink anything, And Aunt Ora had taught it to him according to this book. And I've heard Uncle Hugo talk about it. But he lost to a man who ended up running a streetcar. And he said he believed if he could have been speaking on the New South by Henry W. Grady, that same speech that I spoke, and won a gold medal. And I may say that these words in here, that I still remember the words better than Uncle Hugo, because he didn't follow just exactly the word of Henry W. Grady. But there was a time when, you see, Pelham was 2 years younger than Vernon.
Yeah.
But Pelham could make a speech, and he would win.
Yeah.
And Vernon could make a speech, but for some reason or not, he didn't win.
It was because Uncle Pelham would win. If Uncle Pelham hadn't been speaking at the same time, he'd have won. Because he was the best after him, you see.
Vernon was the best after Pelham.
Yeah.
But didn't there come a time when Pelham wanted Vernon to win?
Oh, yes.
Let's share that with these children.
Oh, yes, the whole family.
While I go to the bathroom.
They were all
Go ahead
worried about it. Uncle
and
Pelham.
then we got to go. Go
He
ahead.
had never won a prize, and his brother, you see, had every speech, every time he had ever tried for a medal, he won it. And always his brother, a little older, he tried to at the same time, and everybody that was trying, because he and all the rest of them would lose, because Uncle Pelham never failed to get it when he tried. And he was worried about it, and Grandpa was worried about it. They all were worried about it, because they could tell it was where Uncle Vernon would try to be brave about it, but they could tell it was getting to him. So Uncle Pelham was thinking about how could Uncle Vernon just had to win the next time, and he had mentioned he just wouldn't enter, but no, that wouldn't count, you see. Oh, Uncle Vernon said if he ever won a medal and Uncle Pelham didn't try, well, it wouldn't count.
Huh.
And so he had to make the speech. So he made it up in his mind what he was going to do. He was going to do the speech, but he was going to forget it in the middle of it. He was going to stop. He was going to forget it, just be in a bad way there for a little bit. Well, he did. I mean, Uncle
Fella.
Uncle Vernon made his speech, you see, and it was real. It was just really good. They said it was better than Uncle Vernon had never spoken that well. And they were all just thinking, wow, they believed he'd win. They could see how he could keep from winning that night, no matter how good Uncle Pelham was. But when Uncle Pelham got up, he remembered he forgot it in the middle of it. And then...
On purpose.
On purpose, he forgot it. But he thought everything was safe then, you see. So then he gave it all he had to the end. He just wound up, just really got wound up on the end. Because he forgot, he wasn't worried at all.
As a fair maiden who has torn herself from the barbaric clutches of a ruffian and struggles for what she holds dearer than life itself. That's the way he ended it, and go ahead.
Well, anyway, when he sat down, he wasn't the least uneasy among the family. He forgot it. And Uncle Vernon had done better than he ever had, but still, they knew Pelham had done mighty well once. But after forgetting it, that wouldn't count. But lo and behold, when they came out about the medals, they said it was so close. It took them a long time to decide. It was so close between two brothers. And they still thought everything was all right. But finally, they had to give it to Pelham.
Well, didn't Mama... You remember that great speech that Mama made against that Allen, Rosalie Allen?
Rosalie Allen.
Well, I mean, that was tit for tat too, wasn't it? Did Mama feel like she had just outdone herself?
Yeah, best she'd ever done. And Mother had, you know, she did well on making those speeches. You know, everybody would, they were impressed with how well she could do those speeches when she'd get up to do it. But Rosalie White was pretty much like Uncle Pelham about always winning.
Well, her family went on to Hollywood and all that, didn't it? Yeah.
You know, and she had a niece that became an actress.
What was her name?
Gertrude.
From Talladega.
Yeah, but her mother had been reared, you see, in Ashland.
Yeah.
She was sister to Rosalie White. And so they said the same thing about Rosalie and Mother, that it took them a long time because these two young girls had done so well. Each one, it was hard to choose between the two. But finally, they decided on Rosalie White.
And poor Mama.
And poor Mother. And she knew she just really given it all she had, and her family assured her she should have had it. I'm sort of glad they don't give all those prizes now to get up and have to compete.
I am too. They had a beauty contest, and Ashley was kind of wanting to be in it, and I just didn't want her to have to get in that, you know. Competition, because so many little girls feel kind of bad, you know.
Yeah.
And she's not that ugly, but she's just...
She could have won.
Well, we all feel like she'd have done okay.
She could have won.
Well, you know, it's right funny when you and Robert Black and Mary Elizabeth Rozelle, you were all babies at the same time, you know. So that year at the fair, the next year after y'all came, when the fair came at Clay County, well, every year they would give a prize for the prettiest baby. You know, the people would enter their babies into the...
I hope y'all entered me.
Well, no. Mother, I can't remember, Mother and Aunt Hattie talking. They would not enter their babies because they knew their babies were the prettiest, but they were not going to... They were just not going to enter them in something that way, you know. Because if they didn't get it, well, they'd know they deserved it. You know, it was the principle of the thing. They just were not going to enter them. But the funny thing was, Uncle Albert I mean, Uncle Albert, Uncle Marvin, and they all came by that house that ain't had it. And they had Mary Elizabeth. She was really done right. She was entering the contest. Because Uncle Marvin said, not a baby would have a chance. Once they got Mary Elizabeth in there, they were relieved. You and Robert were not going to be in. You wouldn't have a chance anyway, they were sure. and Mother and Aunt were trying, said, now just one baby can get that prize. Now you be a little prepared. Sometimes people get disappointed. They could see they didn't have a doubt in their world that Mary Elizabeth would get it. And so to be a little prepared, if something went wrong, why, no child would have a chance. She was dressed in her best clothes, so you could look at her, and she was a fine baby. They put her in, they carried her on, she was in it. And when they gave the prize, she was not mentioned. She didn't get it.
Oh, Lord.
And Uncle Marvin and Aunt Belle was the maddest thing you ever saw. And Daddy said he was mad as a red hen.
A red hen?
As a wet hen.
Oh, wet hen.
Mad as a wet hen.
Did y'all ever go over and see Uncle Lander, Dr. Black at Wilsonville? I think we'd better go. We've got to go.
His grave?
No, did you ever? These children got to go. I'm punishing them. Did you and Daddy and ever go over, get in your buggy or get on the train and go to Wilsonville where Uncle Lander was a doctor and visit with him?
Oh yes, we'd go about once a year.
In a buggy?
No, we never went in a buggy. We would go in a buggy to Ashland or to Goodwater, But after all, I was pretty little when we were making those trips. And see, we never did make one. We didn't make one when you were a baby. And then right straight, we moved to Ashland. And Uncle Lander died right straight. So those trips that I went, now the last one I remember, it was after Daisy Lee had died. And so we went in the buggy to Ashland. And then we got
Where'd you leave the horse and buggy?
At Uncle Lee's house.
Oh, yeah.
At Uncle Lee's place. See, they had...
But if you'd have gone to Goodwater, where would you have left?
Well, they had a place that...
And a livery stable.
Yeah, livery stable. That's where we left it when we went to Sand Mountain.
Oh, Lord, but we won't mention that. It's like that piano.
Yeah. But when we went to Wilsonville, and this time that I remember, Mother felt my coat was just a little too small, and she had not been able to get me another one that year. It was early in the season, and she wanted to get me one, but she hadn't been able to find what she wanted, so she borrowed one of Edith's. She borrowed Edith's coat. It was really too small for Edith.
Edith Garrett?
Edith Garrett, her little bearskin
Ain't Audrey's
coat.
daughter?
Yeah, it was white bearskin coat with red ribbons
White
on it.
bearskin with red ribbons.
It was so
Lord.
Oh, we all wore these bearskin coats, you see. But I wore Edith's bearskin coat, and it was a very pretty coat. So Mother borrowed from Aunt Audrey, So we got on the train there in Ashland. So Mother met one of Mother's good friends. She was the sister of Rosalie White, and she had married Dr. Northern. And she had a little girl named Sarah, and Sarah was my age. Sarah and her mother got on the train there. Sarah, I remember she had her doll with her. She was a real cute little girl, and I was wishing I'd have brought my doll,
Yeah.
But this woman was bragging on me. Oh, Daisy, you just have the prettiest little girl.
And that was you.
Sweetest little girl, yes. And that coat, it just brings out, it really does something for that coat. It was so pretty. Mother said she kept thinking, it looked like I wanted to say something, but she was trying to keep the words from coming out, but I finally managed. I said, now this coat, it's not really mine. You see, my coat, it's too small. It comes up to here on me. And Mother borrowed, this is my cousin Edith's coat. And my mother borrowed it for me.
Oh, and she was trying her best to keep you from saying that.
Didn't Daddy make all the visits in the with Uncle Lander when he'd go out practicing at night, make a house call?
Yeah, he.
All right. When y'all left, did you get on the train? Did Uncle Lander tell you goodbye?
Oh, that's the last memory
What was that?
I have with Uncle Lander. That he would, as we pulled out, he was waving his hand.
Why?
Telling us goodbye, you know.
For a long time.
Yeah, he was waving his hand.
All right. As a finishing thing, I think it'd be appropriate for the children. We were going to town, me and you, and you had. I got tired of walking.
Oh, this is a
And
sad
so
story.
I insisted that that I couldn't walk, so you picked me up, and you started lugging me, and you passed Aunt Ora's house, and for a long time after that, I had mixed emotions about Aunt Ora, because what did Aunt Ora do?
She got her a switch.
Got a switch in what?
She was using it.
On who?
On you.
Where was I?
Well, you would.
She took me to the closet where
Well,
people
you-
went and with the kids rolled up
Wait
together.
a minute, that was Grace Frank that took you to the toilet.
I remember getting whipped by Aunt Ora by a
Ain't
stick.
no listen, I thought it was just going down.
Said, put that big boy down.
Well, she did. But you see, the thing was, she said that this will kill you, Audrey. You're not supposed to be carrying a big boy like that. But the thing was, you wouldn't. No, it's hot. And you wouldn't walk still, even with Aunt Ora, you see. And that's when she got her a switch.
Well, what did Grace do to
Well,
me?
well,
I didn't-
she took
she
you to-
chastised me too.
Yes, she took you to the toilet.
What had I done?
You wanted to go home. You wanted to go home.
Want to go home?
Yes.
And she wanted to whip me just because I wanted to go home.
Well, it wasn't altogether that. The thing was, we were at the party. We were at this party. And so while the party was going on, suddenly you got me by the hand and said, I want to go home. I won't stay here. I want to go home. I said, oh, no, we're at the party. Let's stay. But the next thing I knew, you were going on down the sidewalk, you see. And so I was coming with you. I said, trying to beg you to come back.
Oh, Lord.
And you said, no, you wouldn't do it at all. You wouldn't come back to the party at all. And the thing, Grace, they missed us, you see. Grace said, where's Audrey? And they said, you Edward running down the sidewalk, and Audrey was running out.
Were we over at Uncle Lee's house?
Oh, yeah, we were at Uncle Lee's house.
Having popcorn and everything.
Yeah, it was a birthday party. It was Marjorie Black's birthday party.
Marjorie Black.
Yeah. And so when Grace went running down the sidewalk, by that time, I had picked you up. You didn't feel like hoofing it on the rest of the way home, but on the other hand, under those circumstances were you going back to the party.
Right.
And so I had picked you up, you see, but I was crying, and you were crying too. We were both just crying and taking on out. You knew it was a serious thing about this party, you know. But Grace came running down the sidewalk, and Audrey, I don't know where you were doing walking down this sidewalk, lugging this boy. I said, he won't stay at the party, Grace. He wants to go home. And she said, he won't go home. He's coming back to this party. Well, anyway, she brought you back to the party, but you didn't want to, you know. It's a sad story. She was having to drag you. She didn't tell you, but she was dragging. And she was talking with you. We see the party was going to be down in the big pasture. And so as we went through that backyard and passed the toilet, they had two toilets, that nice toilet. Then they had what they called the barn toilet. They had two of them. And
Where did I get it? In the barn toilet?
Yeah, as we were passing that one. But the rest, it was on the way to the orchard, you see. And, I mean, to the pasture where the party was, there's a nice little creek down there. Must have waded in. So it was very nice once we got, you had a good time once you got there.
Yeah.
But Grace, she was still good to go, so she took you in that car. She said, "That's good, all I'm going to do on this business." And she got her a switch, and she just whipped you. You had, are you going to stay at the party? No, no. Now keep here, no, no. And Grace, well, she said their lips were coming because Grace was talking, though. She was eloquent that night.
Did I ever say yes?
Yes, you did. And she even made you kiss her, put your arm around it.
Kiss her?
And kiss her. Yes, because that's the way Mother and I had you believe. You know, if you whipped a child, to be sure you made up, you kissed. And so you came on out, and Grace had you by the hand, and not another peep out of you at that picnic, not another peep about wanting to go home. You went on and played in the creek with the rest of the children. All of us were down there playing in the creek. I could hardly believe it. You were so good. The rest of the time. And you walked home. I didn't have to coach you home or anything. But the thing was, now, no matter how you did with anybody else when you decided you didn't know want to do something, never again with Grace. Grace, all she had to do was tell you, Edward, just do so-and-so, and you always minded Grace after that.
Lord, I never will forget, though, and I know we got to go. I never will forget the time that Uncle Orlando Black, Uncle Orlando told us, the half-brother of Uncle Bright, who was the granddaddy of these boys that you were out with last night, was a lawyer out in California. And he came to visit in 1918. He came to visit Uncle Lee, and he came to visit us. And they were over at Uncle Lee's house. And they telephoned. Uncle Lando was going to spend the night with us. And so Uncle Lee's family telephoned us to come over there. And Uncle Hugo was there. Okay. We went over. I was sick. I didn't get to go. So Sister and Mama went. And it got time to leave, and there's about a half a mile from where Uncle Lee lived to where we live. And Mama kept saying, well, we're going to have to go. Or Uncle Orlando and Audrey and I are going to have to go. Uncle Hugo didn't say doodle and squat. They were just laughing, just laughing like, you know, and didn't even pay them any attention. And so pretty soon Mama got out her flashlight, and there she and this elderly uncle, Uncle Orlando, a big man in California, much bigger than Hugo at the time. Hugo was always coming back. He was going overseas. You know, he came to our house one time, and he'd done it, but this time he's going overseas. He's always telling people goodbye, but he never did go overseas. They never did send him. He wanted to go.
Yeah, he really wanted to go.
Oh, he really wanted to go. Mama just thought he's crazy. I mean,
Yeah,
she could not.
did.
Anybody want to go overseas and get shot up. But anyway, to make a long story short, I vividly remember my sister telling me that she and Uncle Lander and her mother were walking home, and they got about halfway home. And Uncle Lander had a few words to say about how he felt and the situation. And thus at this time, it'll take less than a minute for Audrey, my sister, to explain just exactly what Uncle Orlando said. And then the redeeming feature of all of this is the fact that we had a visitor at our house early the next morning. All right, Mrs. Riddle.
Well, as we were walking along, Mother, well, from the time we left the house, Mother and Uncle Lander were touching watching on, the walk home. But Uncle Lander just waxed eloquent as he went along with his, and he's talking about it, About halfway home, he was getting really eloquent when he thought of his nephew. It was bad enough with an elderly uncle whom he had not seen, and all this stuff, to let him with a car, him owning a car right there in the yard, to let him walk to his sister. But when he thought that he would allow his sister and this little child to walk through this night, and him up there sitting there laughing and talking with his car there in the yard, and let us walk.
Giving him
Did that
down
make
the road.
you feel good?
It made me feel so.
Early the next morning,
little
we've got to
child.
go early. He's got to pack his dress. Early the next morning, what happened?
Uncle Hugo, he drove up
Drove up?
to the house.
Yeah. What did he say?
Well, he was surprised. He didn't realize, Why didn't somebody say something to him? But I don't think he was talking and carrying. Now, we had, Uncle, not only Mother had mentioned something, but he really wasn't listening. Uncle Lander himself had, we better be getting this child home.
But he was sorry that it happened.
Oh, he
Very
was
apologetic.
very apologetic.
Well, who was he talking to? Was he talking to Grace or Hollis?
There was just
Or did he have Albert Lee Smith and
yeah,
Ben Ray or
well,
some
you,
of them with
you
him?
would know Albert Lee Smith would be with him. It's very seldom he ever came without Albert Lee Smith. But there were,
Well, Mama,
at that time, he was he was in the Army, leaving, you see, going overseas. So he came with quite a group that time, from Birmingham.
Several?
I guess that might have been a time when Ben Ray was with him. There were different ones, but all the kinfolks that could get there, to see Hugo before he sailed, went across the waters.
Went across the water.
Yeah, they wanted to see it. They were all marvelous.
Now, y'all have heard that story about him, Uncle Hugo, coming to the house, and Mama, the week before Albert Lee was born, and Mama and Nellie C. had really put the big pot in the little one, and it took 3 different tables to feed everybody, and poor old sister and myself had to eat at the 3rd table, and but that was before Uncle Hugo couldn't find me, and he kept saying, "Where is Hugh Edwards? Where is Hugh Edwards?" And I was under the house because prior to that time, those Pruitts and Blacks, they came over the hill there and they were beating pots and pans and playing guitars and playing saxophones, and some of them had gone to Auburn. They had uniforms on, and there Uncle Hugo was in his uniform, and there Albert Lee Smith, some of the others was in uniform, and they had an automobile out front, and I was just scared to death. And so at that house at Ashland, I went under the house.
When I was, well, they were wondering where I was, too. I was out there. Nobody knew where either one of us was at the time. But what, you see, I was, when you disappeared, I was running after you because Uncle Hugo was there and you needed to, I had the feeling, well, I want my little brother to be there when they all get here. I want us to be there, where we can see all the kids. And so, here under the house, I don't want to be a war man. I don't want to be a war man. Sister, don't tell him I'm here. I don't want to be a war man. He thought Uncle Hugo said take him with him.
War man.
He'd have had his hands full, wouldn't he?
He certainly would.
He'd have had his hands full if he'd have taken him to be a war man.
Well, did we cover it pretty well?
I think we covered it pretty well.
Well, we better go.
Well,
Are we going to take Eddie? Do you know how to operate that thing? How about you coming over here and standing with me and see, is it still operating?
Yes, sir.
It's a,
It is. Come over here and come here, Ashley, and stand right here.
Oh, what's he gonna do?
Well, just first, I just want to hold you like that. Now
Oh,
put
just-
your
Oh,
your
we
round
want to take
sister.
your pictures.
Lee, come over here and hug me a little bit. And Eddie, why don't you hug sister a little bit or something?
I don't know if we can all get that's a full
If you got
picture
a
there.
doll, well, can't you come over here now and bow or
Uh,
something like that?
And just say, and all we need is a big sign saying the end.
Some of us will say the end. Will you say the end, Lee?
The end.
Ashley, will you say the end?
The end.
Sister, will you say the end?
The end.